Welcome to the 2021 St. Michael's College Career Symposium. My name is Niall Keene. I'm a member of the class of 2018, and I will be happy to moderate this panel tonight put on by the Alumni Board of Directors. And I'm excited to introduce our wonderful group of young alumni panelists who are excited to share a little bit about their experience post-grad and the successes they've had since graduation and how they were able to achieve these successes. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists to share their name, what year they graduated, where they currently live and work, and for fun, one word that describes their post-grad experience thus far. Abby is to my right, and so I'm going to start with Abby. So I'll let you start, Abby.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Abby. I graduated in 2020, and now remind me if I forget to give any of the info. But I live in Denver, Colorado now. So I work for Emerge, which is a Denver-based search and staffing firm. What else did you want me to give?
So your name, class year, where you live, where you work, and one word to describe your post-grad experience.
Oh, that's right. Post-grad experience. Well, I mean, we all know what happened in 2020. So let's just say it was a journey. That's for sure.
Thank you, Abby. Sam is right below me, so I'll go to Sam next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha Delaney. I graduated in 2019. I live in New York City, and I am a PhD candidate in biochemistry at the Graduate Center of the City University of New York. And I conduct my doctoral thesis work at Weill Cornell Medical College and Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And part of getting your PhD in STEM is teaching. So I also teach undergraduate chemistry at Hunter College, all of that right here in Manhattan. And one word to describe my post-grad years, young post-grad years so far, has been resilient, because I was 2019, so we had normalcy, and then my first year of my PhD, the world was like, no. And now we are slowly coming back out of that, and we are being resilient. So definitely a lot of resiliency going on here.
Thank you, Sam. We love resiliency. Jumping over to Nicole.
Hi, my name is Nicole Butler. I'm class of 2018. I'm currently a federal investigator for the EEOC, which stands for Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, so the federal government. And one word that describes my post-grad journey is, let's see, I want to say it's been fantastic, which I think sounds kind of unfair because I'm, kind of the lucky one in this situation. Where I graduated before the pandemic. So my experience has been pretty great so far.
Awesome, thank you. And jumping over to Kevin.
Yep, my name's Kevin. I'm a 2020 grad. I currently work for a small consulting firm in just outside of DC called Kill the Group. It's about 40 people. I live in Baltimore now, but I work remotely, so everything's 100% remote for us. We mostly do federal government consulting, so currently our contracts are through the VA. And I guess one word to describe my experience, I guess exhilarating would be my one word. And I don't feel like explaining it, so yeah, that's my one word.
Awesome, thank you so much. These are great words, and I'm excited to continue on in this conversation. For everyone that's attending, I wanted to let you know that instead of me asking questions the entire time, please feel free to put questions in the chat, and we'll do a little back and forth between me asking a question to the panelists as well as allowing you to further engage with them and ask questions as well. So please feel free to enter any questions you may have into the chat. But to start us off, I'm going to ask each of the panelists to just give us a brief summary of how they ended up in the fields that they're currently in. And I guess we can follow the same order of Abby, Nicole, or Abby, Sam, Nicole, and Kevin.
Yeah, so like I said, it's been a journey since graduation. I was an environmental science major with political science and Spanish minors. decided to move to Denver from Massachusetts in July of 2020, which was quite a decision. So I moved here, had no job, just found an apartment and moved. So I kind of had to take the first thing I could find, which was minimum wage work. And I ended up finding the position I'm in now completely by accident. Working for a search and staffing firm, it's kind of goes without saying, they recruited me. So they found my resume on LinkedIn, reached out to me, and were able to get in touch with me to do interviews and find this position. So it's definitely something I didn't necessarily consider previously as something I could do for a job, but I've really enjoyed it. So I'm happy that they found me and offered me the position I have now.
Awesome, thank you. I'm also going to introduce our other panelist, Arda. Arda, welcome to the Young Alumni panel. Thank you for joining us. Just to start, I'm going to ask you to just answer a few questions that our other panelists just answered. Can you share your name, where you live, what you do, and one word to describe how you or how your Young Alumni postgrad experience has been thus far?
Thank you, Niall. How is everyone doing? Good to see you all. My name is Arda. I'm from class 2018. I currently live in Boston, Massachusetts. I work in the nonprofit sector. I work at an agency called St. Francis House, and we are a day shelter, and I work in clinical and recovery services. And I found this work through pretty much kind of looking around. I was originally in Michigan, and I was kind of like seeing what was available, and I always had a drive for nonprofit work, and I wanted to see what was available, and so I applied, and I was able to start originally with workforce development, and then now I'm in clinical and recovery at this agency. And so far, my experience, I mean, it is a challenge. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's definitely a challenge. But I think the biggest thing is just really making sure to, look at your overall like skill sets, what you bring to the table, really have that be on the forefront when you put it in your resume and cover letters, and just think about not really what others or like not really through other resumes and other experiences that you've seen, but like you in particular, like what can you bring to the table that other people can like really see and kind of see you working in their agency with. So I would just say like uniqueness and like your own characteristics is going to be a big thing just going forward as well. So yeah, I would say that's my biggest advice.
Thank you. So we'll jump back to the other question about just explaining about a little bit about what you do. So I will jump to Sam and then Nicole and then Kevin.
Yeah, so I was a biochemistry major at St. Mike's. I had minors in French and religious studies. And Niall, you wanted our journey from St. Mike's to what we do now?
Yes.
Yeah, so I came in as a biochemistry major, and as many science majors do, came in thinking I wanted to go to medical school. And the closer and closer the time got for me to get that MCAT book and start studying, the more and more I realized, wow, I like really don't want to do that. So I started thinking, what else could I do? I actually had a group of friends who were in my chemistry class who had done research the summer between our sophomore and junior year. And I thought, okay, I won't be going home to Long Island this summer to work in the hospital like I had been doing the previous 2 summers because I thought I wanted to go to medical school and I really didn't want to, really didn't enjoy that. So I thought, what if I stayed up in Burlington this summer and did research? So I did research with Dr. Christina Chant in the chemistry department, and also had the wonderful opportunity to work with her husband, who was faculty at UVM, and he actually came to St. Mike's because everybody wants to be at St. Mike's because it's a great place, and had the best experience ever. Best summer, best introduction to scientific and biomedical research that I could have ever asked for. And at the end of that summer, I thought to myself, I could really see myself doing this for, my life after post-grad. So I applied to PhD programs, went on some visits, and then accepted, and that's how I got here doing research.
Excellent, so exciting. Nicole?
So at St. Mike's, I was a history major and I took a lot of political science, and I minored in French with Sam. So we spent a lot of time together in French classes. But I always had wanted to work in kind of the legal realm. And my first job post-grad was at a law firm doing trust and estate planning. And I will say that that experience wasn't so fantastic. I kind of block it out, to be honest. The culture of a lot of small firms is just pretty toxic. And I left after a couple of months for a new job as a legal assistant for the US Army Corps of Engineers. So the Army Corps of Engineers, a lot of people don't necessarily know what they do, but a good way to think about them is that they are the general contractors for the federal government. And they also do a lot of environmental engineering. So anything that deals with waters of the United States, so federal waters, they regulate that. So I learned more about dredging and eelgrass mitigation as a legal assistant and then paralegal specialist there that I ever could have possibly wanted to know. Another thing they're very well known for in Massachusetts is the Cape Cod Canal bridges. So they're in charge of those bridges. But as much as I loved my team at the Corps, I really am not passionate about engineering. So I did do a lot of work with employment law through my work as a paralegal. So I started looking for jobs still within the federal sector that kind of aligned with those interests more. And then that is how I became to be an investigator at the EEOC. So the EEOC, if you think about, it's on every job application that you apply for, it says we're an equal opportunity employer. So if somebody thinks that their federal rights have been discriminated on the basis of age, race, sex, color, genetic disability, etc., we would investigate that. And it's very rewarding. Right now, we're very busy because of all the COVID-related religious accommodations. So it's been a very historic time to be with the EEOC, but it's been a very good experience so far. So
Thank you so much, Nicole. That sounds very exciting and rewarding. Kevin.
Yeah, so let's see, my career path is probably a little different. So I actually got a job in October of my senior year, actually exactly 2 years ago now. So my job offer was for PwC, which, if you don't know, is one of the big 4 accounting firms. So I was supposed to be in Boston, the seaport, and then COVID happened. And because of that, they retracted my offer and then reissued an offer with an indefinite start date. So they said winter, spring of 2021, and then cut my salary by 10%. And I decided that I wasn't okay with that. I was worth more than that. So I declined that offer, actually, and then ended up kind of applying to different jobs, kind of around the country, actually. So some in Salt Lake, some in Baltimore, DC area, some in Boston, and ended up down here in Baltimore last October, actually. So just over a year ago, and I've been here since. So again, my work's with the federal government, the VA. So a lot of my work is everything from coding to delivering classes and moderating classes. So kind of different pieces there. So it's kind of my career story and how I've ended up where I am today.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. Arda, do you just want to share what you studied in college and how that brought you to where you are today?
Absolutely. So I majored in international relations. I minored in philosophy. And I would say a lot of the tools that I got through both those fields really did kind of bring me into working in mental health and working in the clinical field, because being able to kind of being in a city as diverse as Boston, there is, having that cultural background and that those lessons that I did take from like professors at St. Mike's. I want to also give a shout out to Professor Caracrioli because he was awesome. But so getting all that like knowledge and being able to work with people that come from all different backgrounds and being able to have that experience of also bring in like ethics and some of the stuff that I also learned through philosophy, I would say really did shape the holistic approach that I, to this very day, do bring to my field. I would say that kind of liberal arts background in general that St. Mike's gave, I would say helped with fluidity of what the mental health field really consists of. So yeah, I would say those were the biggest highlights for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. It was really great to hear each of your different stories, to hear about finding your passion, knowing your value, understanding that you wanted to do something in the sciences at St. Mike's, really getting to know those different things and seeing how they influence your daily life today was super great to hear. So thank you for sharing all of that. My next question, I want to shift gears a little bit, and I want to ask you, what was most surprising to you when you transitioned out of St. Mike's into the work world, into your new academic field? What was most surprising to you? And it doesn't have to be work related, it could be social related. Just what was the biggest transition for you? And we can start with Abby.
So the biggest transition for me, honestly, was the social aspect. I think we all kind of know how to work, especially if we've had jobs throughout college and what work life can be like. But especially moving to a city where I didn't know a single person during a global pandemic, it was really, really hard to meet people. And now that we're coming out of things a bit more and stuff is more opened up, I've been able to make more friends, but it took a long time. So I think that was the hardest part, and that's what surprised me the most, that when you're not in school and you're not surrounded by peers all the time, it can be a lot harder to meet new people.
Sam?
So for me, I definitely experienced an insane amount of imposter syndrome transitioning from St. Mike's, going to my PhD. There's, the brunt of it is, getting a PhD like straight out of college. A lot of people go and get a master's first. A lot of people go and get a job first. And I show up on the first day of school and there are people 10 years, 15 years older than me, people married, people with children, people who have been working in the field for a really long time. And I just graduated with my bachelor's and I felt nervous. And it's something that I still do struggle with. I think when you're in a doctor program, the imposter syndrome never goes away. But I think utilizing the tools that St. Mike's gave me, I have been able, and to be honest, this summer was really, really a really transformative time for me. I've been able to become way more confident in my abilities as not only as an oncological radiation biochemist, which is the type of research that I do, but my abilities to speak and write and communicate that science with my peers and the communities beyond the scientific and medical communities. So at St. Mike's, we're really comfortable at St. Mike's. I'm not going to lie, we're a giant family. And for the most part, a lot of us are lucky enough to walk into any room on campus and we have friends everywhere and we know our professors. And I was on the basketball team and I was just very, very comfortable at St. Mike's. Throw me into a PhD program in New York City. It was a lot of imposter syndrome, thinking that I didn't belong. But with time, with practice, and utilizing the tools that St. Mike's gave me, I've been able to make a lot of strides in that regard. So it was surprising, but we're working on it every day.
Awesome, thank you. Nicole?
So I mentioned that the law firm that I worked at, my first job out of college, the law firm is pretty toxic. So I guess the learning curve, or the most surprising thing that I experienced, was like that high school culture, for lack of a better term, exists in workplaces, and people are petty and people are mean, and you're going to get your feelings hurt at work, which is like, a place that you don't necessarily expect that to happen. And just kind of knowing when to recognize that it's not a normal level of, high schoolness, and actually a very problematic environment to be in. And you don't really know with your first job. Like, the internships I had were so like safe, for a lack of a better word, I guess. So it was just a shock of reality. After that, though, I've had fantastic bosses who are like complete 360s to, getting emails at 4 o'clock in the morning and saying, why haven't you responded to this client yet? Blah, blah, blah. Or not responding to emails at 8 p.m. at night and getting reamed for it the next day. So it's just, you have to kind of know when to step away sometimes.
Thank you, Nicole. Kevin.
Gotta find my unmute there button. Missing the sunlight, man. So, I work from my apartment right now. It's been remote, and the first probably 6 months, I started in October, and you get that winter season, and there would be days where, I'd start work at 7:38ish, and probably finish around 6 or 7, and I would never see the sunlight, right? Like, I wouldn't go outside and get my vitamin D. And I really had to make a conscious effort to, take time out of my day to, get outside and not be just, stuck in my little home for 8-10 hours at a time. So I think that was a really big shift, and kind of also probably something that's more unique to the COVID time than was before, because of working from home.
Thank you, Kevin. Arda?
Yeah, I would say, I would say, kind of going off what Kevin was saying, for us, that there was, I'm working full time, on site, but there was a long period of time where I was very much working remotely as well, and it was a big challenge because this was we had historic highs of relapses that happened through the opioid epidemic, and there was a lot of instances that we could not be on site to be there for individuals that were kind of going through all that. So it was, I would say, it did bring a lot of stress, and I think Kevin, you tagged on to something really important, which is that work-life balance, and it's something super important that I would recommend anyone that is going into any field, take care of yourself, because it's super important. And I would say that's probably the biggest. Actually, in general, tonight I will give you that as the biggest tip I can give you, is just make time for yourself, because in a world that is consistently moving and going and nonstop, you take that time for you, because at the end of the day, if you're not healthy, you're not gonna be able to do the work. So always put yourself right there, and then and be in the moment and take care of yourself. Absolutely.
Thank you all. I have to say, Sam, I think you hit it on the head with the word resiliency as your word for post-grad life. And I feel like we all touched on that a little bit. And so going off of that, and to take a question from the Q&A area, how do you all create a positive community for yourself outside of work? What have you done to really build new friend groups. I know Abby, you're in Denver, Arda, you're in Boston, Sam, you're in New York, Nicole's in Boston, and Kevin's in, oh my gosh, Baltimore. I almost forgot for a second. Tell me how have you guys built new friendships, new communities, and really maintained your wellness post-grad? Abby, we can start with you.
So the biggest thing for me was actually to create a group of people and a support system here in Denver. And that took a long time because of the pandemic. It was kind of inevitable. I knew moving here when I did, it was going to take a while. So something that was useful for me, and it took me a long time to come around to, was actually using apps like Bumble BFF. Actually works. I've met some of my best friends here on that app, and it took me a year to open myself up to it because I was like, that's for losers who can't make friends. And then I went on there and met some of my best friends, and that allowed me to meet more people and put myself out there. I think to find a home outside of college, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable and put yourself in situations that you might not have thought about. But that was the biggest thing, was creating a community of support around myself. That's really how I made this area feel like a home. And definitely not having work be your life. Like you do have to, when the day ends, especially when you're working from home, stop working, make plans during the week, have fun things to look forward to, because your friends don't live next door anymore. You have to put in that effort to see other people and get out of your home.
Sam?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Abby just said. A huge thing is putting yourself out there. I feel very lucky because I'm in New York City now. I'm originally from Long Island, New York. So I grew up in the New York metro area, and a lot of my friends from childhood and high school are here in the city or still on Long Island. So I do get to see them a lot. But I have to say, a big part of my social life here in the city is people that went to St. Mike's. So in New York, we don't have an enormous alumni community, but that means that we're all so close because we have each other. So if anybody comes to New York, hit me up, hit Niall up. We'll all hang out. We'll get all of our St. Mike's people here in the city together and hang out. We love doing it. Niall, we were literally hanging out with St. Mike's people this past weekend. So it's true. I love having my St. Mike's people here in the city. But yeah, a big thing that I can speak to is don't be afraid to put yourself out there. A huge thing that I value is my independence. Don't be afraid to go and do things on your own. If there's a concert that you want to go to it. In December 2019, I went to a CD signing by myself because I wanted to meet the singer. I was waiting online, and the person behind me, I became such good friends with, and I am still friends with him to this day. And I am seeing him this weekend. That was back in 2019. And we stayed in touch throughout the entire pandemic. And that's because I took a chance to go to a CD signing by myself randomly in the morning because it was in between when I wanted to study, So definitely don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And just stay in touch with your St. Mike's friends and come to New York.
It was great to see you this weekend, Sam. I echo come to New York, but I'll throw it over to Boston. Nicole, tell us a little bit about your outside of work life balance.
Sure. So I actually really liked what Sam said about don't be afraid to do things by yourself. I think it's not that this is necessarily about community, because I guess maybe you are a community by yourself. I don't know. But I think it's really important in your post-college experience to be okay with doing things by yourself. I think that's kind of something that we lose touch with a little bit in college because we're constantly surrounded by our friends and other people, and there isn't really an opportunity to kind of be alone and, take a risk and go to a CD signing or go to a new gym class by yourself, go to a museum by yourself. Like, I do think that's something that's really important to learn. And it is uncomfortable, but being comfortable with being alone is a good skill to have. But besides from being alone, my community in Boston, I'm pretty lucky to be surrounded by a lot of St. Mike's grads. You know, it's the cliche saying that everyone who goes to St. Mike's is from 30 minutes outside of Boston, but now we're all living in Somerville, Cambridge, and Boston, so it's kind of different. So I do have a lot of good friends from St. Mike's, you know, a 10-minute walk away. And I also grew up 30 minutes outside of Boston, so a lot of my friends from childhood and high school are not that far away either.
Amazing, thank you. When you guys go to Charlestown, I'll come up. Kevin?
Yeah, so Baltimore doesn't have probably as strong of an alumni community as Boston, especially, or New York does. So I would say I've just joined a couple of different things. So you know, I joined like a community orchestra. It meets every Tuesday, and then I picked up skydiving, which is like a really tight community, which is a ton of fun. And so I'd say like for me, it was a lot of like joining communities. And I'm in like a little running club that runs a couple times a week. So you know, I would say for me, like the easiest way is just to join something that you might not know anything about, or something you do or are really familiar with. You know, joining that community, because right away you have that shared interest when you join something that you're already interested in. So.
Awesome, thank you, Kevin. Arda?
Yes, so going off Nicole, so there's a lot of people here in Boston from St. Mike's. I was fortunate enough to, you know, I currently live in Brighton, and there's a lot of people here who I'll walk around the corner and I'll just like see people sometimes, and I'll be like, oh, there you are. I think the biggest thing that I would give, any advice I would give is, you know, don't like, a lot of the time when you go into a workplace, you know, people will say, hey, you know, it's Friday, it's the evening, like, what are you doing? You guys want to get together? You want to do stuff? Like, I would say hop on it, because that person that is reaching out to you, might be like a lifelong friend that you just all of a sudden, you know, start a new chapter with in your life. And yeah, just know that 9 times out of 10, and I'll leave it for the 1 out of 10, because I mean, who knows, like, people won't bite. And you know, it's just going in with the notion that also you're in a field that you're going to be in an environment, you're going to be in a field that hopefully that you enjoy and that you have passion for, and then other people around you are going to have passion for that field and that interest as well. So there's immediately a similarity there. And then, I mean, the conversations will just immediately start coming. And then next thing you know, I personally have people that I work with who I met 3 years ago, and now like in my work, like they're some of my closest friends, and it just happens. And I would just say, you know, just go right in and just introduce yourself and let people know that, hey, you know, like that you're there, you're working with them, and you're fighting a good fight with them. And that's kind of what it's all about. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you so much. These answers are amazing. It's great to hear what you guys do outside of work, how you keep your wellness. I totally echo Sam and Nicole with it's okay to be alone and do things on your own. I think that's a part of leaving St. Mike's. You're always getting in a car to go skiing with someone, or taking the bus down to Burlington with someone. It's nice to find that inner time for yourself. I'm going to go to a question for Sam. Sam, would you have preferred to take time off between your undergraduate degree and your PhD program? And what motivated you to get your PhD right after your undergrad?
I'm not sure if I would have preferred it, but that's the norm. So I'll say that is definitely the norm. A lot of people go and get a job. A lot of people go and get a master's. So for me personally, okay, so I actually had a bit of a tumultuous senior year. So I was on the basketball team at St. Mike's, and I tore my ACL 5th game into the senior year, early enough where I could have redshirted and played another season of basketball. And I was wrestling between, do I go and get my master's and play another year of basketball? Or if I get accepted to PhD programs, do I start my PhD right away? So my senior year was very hectic, visiting lots of different campuses, talking to coaches, talking to PhD programs. There was a lot going on. The second I got accepted to my first PhD program, I just knew in my gut that that was the route that I wanted to go. I miss basketball every single day, but I don't regret that decision. So as for if I would have preferred it, I don't believe so. But I also, that's definitely the norm. I think if I had taken that time off, I wouldn't be experiencing the amount of imposter syndrome that I experienced, just because I'd have more time in the scientific field, but I'm learning so much. I love my research. I love my boss. I love my lab group. So it sounds cliche to say, but I guess I do think everything happens for a reason.
Thank you. So going to our next question for all of the panelists. Did you do any internship programs while you were at St. Mike's? Did you do any study abroad opportunities? Can you speak a little bit to those different formative experiences and if they played a role in your post-college life and where you find yourself today? Abby, we can jump to you.
Yeah, so I did not have the opportunity to study abroad. I just was studying too many different things that did not quite align to make that possible. But I did do plenty of internships. So actually, after my sophomore year at St. Mike's, for the summer, I got a summer job canvassing with VPIRG, which they have signs all over campus prior to the summer for canvassing. They're an environmental nonprofit. And I really enjoyed my summer there. So following that, pretty much every semester until graduation, I interned with them. So some of those were campus organizing internships. Some were internships at the State House in Montpelier. So I had a lot of awesome opportunities there. Actually led to me being offered a job post-grad, but with COVID and then everything that happened, I just decided my journey was going to Denver and trying something new. But I do feel like the experience that I had in those positions definitely helped. It might not directly translate to recruiting, but going door to door and canvassing gave me really great experience at just talking to people I know nothing about. I think internships inevitably are going to help you even in ways that you don't realize. So maybe you won't have a job in the field that you did an internship with, but you're going to carry over the experiences for sure.
Thank you, Abby. And just to jump off of that, for each of the panels, and I'm going to come back to you for this, Abby. Can you talk about how you got those internships or got those study abroad opportunities? So, Abby, I'll jump it back to you just to speak to how you started VSAC, right?
Or VPIRG, close.
VSAC is the loan company.
Yeah, I do work with VSAC by paying my loans though. So, no, I basically, literally, they have posters that they put up on campus that have a little tear off sheet. It's like, do you want to bike door to door and save the earth? And I thought, why not? So I applied to a job with them. And after that, if you've worked for them a year, every time they have an internship, anything like that, they email the whole Canvas crew that worked there the year before. So it was pretty seamless from there on out. I always knew when stuff was happening and could apply.
Awesome. Thank you. Sam?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I couldn't take a full semester abroad because my sport was both semesters. I did do the study trip, the Pontigny study trip. So Pontigny holds a very special place in my heart. I have a picture of it in my apartment right over there. I love St. Mike's. So I didn't have the opportunity to do that, but I didn't do internships. What I did do the summers after my first year and my sophomore year was work in a hospital. Like I mentioned, I thought I wanted to go to medical school. So I went home to Long Island for the summer, worked at Stony Brook University Hospital. That was an online application system. And it was great, didn't love it, came to the conclusion that I wanted to try research at St. Mike's for the summer going into my senior year. And the way I approached that is when you're at St. Mike's, and if you're thinking about doing research, it doesn't have to be in the summer. It can actually be during the semesters as well. You can register, it'll be an independent course, but literally what you do is you go to a professor that you like and you say, hi, I am interested in this, and would you please mentor me? Would you want to do this with me? Is this something that you think we could work on and think that we would work well together? And most of the people watching this know this because you go to St. Mike's and you know the nature of St. Mike's, but I think it's really important to emphasize the amazing opportunity that it is to do research at St. Mike's. The very nature of our school, how small it is, how we get to know our professors so well is 100% the reason I am in a PhD program right now. I did research with Christina Chan in the chemistry department. Best experience ever. I asked her to do that after having one class with her. The spring of my junior year, the semester wasn't even over yet. I had known this woman. It was the first class I had had with her. I had known this woman for a couple months, and I went to her and I asked if I could do research with her for an entire summer, if she would take me on. She already had like 3 students. She easily could have said no, but because we have small class sizes, because we get to know our professors and in turn they get to know us, she knew me after just a short amount of time, what kind of a student I was, what I was like in the classroom, what I was like in the lab, how I was as a person. So definitely if you're thinking about doing research at St. Mike's, again, like I'm speaking about the research instead of like internships because that more aligns with my field. So if you're thinking about doing research at St. Mike's or research in general, definitely consider it at school at St. Mike's because you get that one-on-one mentorship with our professors. And it was just the best experience ever. And yeah, I can't speak highly about it enough. So I loved my time doing research at SMC.
Thank you, Sam. And I will say, I think one of the big things to take away is don't be afraid to ask. So I'm going to jump to Nicole.
Yeah, so I did not study abroad, and that is actually one of my biggest regrets of St. Mike's. But I should preface this with saying I did have an internship abroad. So it was just a very different experience in the sense that I was working 5, sometimes 6 days a week, because it was also volunteering stuff too, because my internship was with the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. So we did do like volunteering stuff on the weekend. But that was something that I had done. I had gone to this place as a young Girl Scout, and that was something I knew I had wanted to do when I went there when I was 14, which is kind of why I chose not to study abroad and apply to this program instead. And I did one normal internship in Burlington with Let's Grow Kids, which is a nonprofit kind of advocacy group that's advocating for high quality affordable childcare in Vermont. And I believe they actually the state of Vermont did end up passing a bill after all their campaigning. So their mission has been accomplished, but they still have a lot of work to do in terms of leveling the childcare playing field. But it was really interesting, and I learned a lot about working in an office environment from my internship there. But I will say that I know a lot of St. Mike's students, class of 2022, especially struggled with finding internships last year. And I do want to say, like, don't stress out over not having that experience on your resume. Everyone is going to be understanding that you're not going to have the normal experience that a lot of other people might have because you were in a very unique situation. So don't worry about not having internship experience as you start looking for jobs.
Awesome, thank you, Nicole. Kevin?
Yeah, so I'll keep mine short. Yeah, so I did research my freshman year. I was an English and economics major. So I did English research, actually studying Margaret Atwood's trilogy, Mad Adam. As my freshman year. My sophomore year, I was an intern for St. Mike's Alumni Giving Office. Wow. Woo. That was, I can't believe I forgot that one. Great office to work for. If you guys ever want to work for Phonathon, it's a great program and you get to talk to people like me over the phone. Let's see. And then my junior year summer, I was an intern also in fundraising and development for a small nonprofit in Boston. It was called Community Servings. And then, yeah, that's all the years I was at St. Mike's. Yeah. So I'll pass it over to Arda then for
So I also did not study abroad, but I did intern, and I actually interned at the United States Committee for Immigrants and Refugees, which is actually right next to St. Mike's. It used to be on the old North Campus, but yeah, it was really cool. It was basically what it was that it was allowing people that were kind of coming in from all different parts of the world, but mainly Syria and Somalia, and just helping them get situated and integrated into Burlington. And it was a phenomenal experience. I was being called in for meals from a lot of the people that I helped. Like they were just like, they wouldn't let me go. They were like, all right, here, like come here, like have like enjoy all this. Like the hospitality was amazing, and it was a wonderful experience because I was able to kind of utilize a lot of what I learned through international relations, and just kind of again just keeping that open-mindedness when talking with people that also might have experienced a lot of trauma from where they were coming from and a lot of their governmental regimes at that time as well. So it was a wonderful experience to like sit and talk and get that kind of firsthand knowledge about what was happening in the world. I would say that, yeah, no, it definitely helped like shape and pave my way to the nonprofit work in the nonprofit field. And I would kind of going off what Abby was saying as well. It's really important to kind of just get that experience and have that experience that, you know, a lot of people are just looking for as well, and to like be able to go into an interview and be like, I did this. This is what I accomplished. And yeah, I highly recommend it.
Thank you so much. Everything you all have said tonight has been so helpful, and it really does capture what the young alumni experience is. So thank you for being so candid and sharing everything. As we conclude, I want to offer you all the opportunity to provide a final thought, and to make it fun, just a quick snippet about where you think you'll see yourself in 10 years. I know that's a very scary question because I can't answer it myself. But it could be work, it could be life, put it where you want it to be, but a quick final thought and where you see yourself in 10 years, which is hard to do in a final thought, so good luck. All right, Abby, you're first.
The quick answer to where I see myself in 10 years is I have no clue, because 2 years ago, I didn't see myself where I am today. But I think that ties in with kind of my parting words, which are really just two pieces of advice, which is, first of all, you don't have to do what's expected of you. There's no linear path for what you're supposed to do. So when you graduate college, if an opportunity presents itself, take it. And that's what I've done. That's why I don't know where I'll end up. And the second thing is, life outside of college moves slowly. College life is fast. Things move slower once you're out of school. So just remember that things aren't going to happen quickly necessarily, but you will move along in life. So you'll make progress.
Sam?
As for where I see myself in 10 years, unsure. So hopefully finished my PhD. We're hoping for 2024. And yeah, as for a future career of mine, which I guess would answer that question, I really don't see myself continuing in academia. I'm not sure. I would love a job where I can incorporate all of my studies, all of the things I did at St. Mike's, something that incorporates the natural sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities. Something that really interests me currently is international scientific policy. I would love a job where I could communicate science on the global scale. And yeah, as for my parting words, literally the nature of biomedical research is failure. Ask anybody who does scientific or medical research, they will tell you that it's horrible. Like it's really, really tough because you are doing something that nobody else in the world has ever done before. So you fail a lot. And the one thing that I would tell you guys is to fail forward. Every failure, and I've had to learn this, and I'm still learning it and still getting used to it. Every failure is a success in some way. It is not just an inevitable part of it, but it's of the journey of post-grad, but it's a critical part of the journey of post-grad. So every time you fail, it's a step forward in the right direction, even though it doesn't feel like it, because once you do get to that success, all of those failures will have led you to that success. So when you fail hard. Fail forward, don't be afraid of it, lean into it. And it also doesn't hurt to have your friends help you there along the way.
Thank you, Sam. I love the motivation here. Nicole?
In 10 years, I don't necessarily know where I'll be. Maybe I'll be a civil rights attorney. Maybe I'll be exactly where I am right now. Who knows? I'm leaving the door open for possibility, going to manifest that out into the universe. What was the other thing we were supposed to say?
Do you have any final thoughts that you just like to
yes.
impart?
So I guess my final thoughts are, I'm just going to plug, the EEOC. Know your employment rights, know what is discrimination. If you have a documented disability and you don't think you're getting support, whether it's a documented learning disability, which some people may have worked with academic support at St. Mike's, you can get reasonable accommodations in the workplace. So just be aware of that. Discrimination can happen to anybody, and sometimes it's legal and sometimes it's not. So just be aware of that as you transition into the workforce.
Excellent, thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, in 10 years, ideally, I'd like to see myself. I think everyone else, I have very specific goals here. I would love to see myself in the C-suite. So CIO, CTO, probably for a smaller company, most likely kind of startup ish, size. Yeah, I think final thoughts are, I think it's great to have goals and feel like you're on a really direct path, but to be flexible, right? And it's okay to say no to a job, if they're offering something that, and that you're worth more than that, there's nothing wrong with saying no, right? It worked out for me, and if you're confident and you you're worth more, and go ahead and say no, right? Because the worst that's going to happen is you keep applying to jobs and you'll get one eventually. I mean, no one, if you keep applying to jobs and keep going to interviews, you're going to get a job, right? So I would say just to keep at it, go through those interviews, and every interview you have is really good experience, right? Even if it went really bad, you know what you shouldn't do next time. So I would say do as much as you can and know what you're worth. Do your research for sure.
Awesome, thank you, Kevin. Arda?
Yes, so I would say, in January, I'll be starting my MSW. I will be getting my master's in social work, and I'll be doing that part-time while working. So hope in 10 years, I would ideally like to potentially see opening up a private practice and just kind of going and continue going in the field of mental health and helping those around me, getting them connected to services, and helping people with low income, barriers to employment. I would say the best advice I would give is just be adaptable to change, because a lot of the times, you don't know what is tomorrow will bring, or the next day, or the day after that. And if a door shuts, just know that another one will open, and just keep going, just keep being resilient. As Sam said, just keep being resilient. And it's very important to just keep in mind. I mean, I think my favorite quote that I love to go by is actually one from Charles Darwin, where it's not the strong or the intelligent that survive, but the ones most adaptable to change. And that is true, because as long as you can just go through life and go through the job process and the interview process, knowing that, all right, well, it's gonna happen, like inevitably, like you're gonna get declined. Like, I mean, it's gonna happen, and that's okay, because if it does, you just know that that's just life basically being like, this is not a good opportunity. Maybe something happened where life was just like, you know what, I don't see this for you, and this is where you'll be happier. And kind of going in with that mindset is going to change the whole perspective for you. So just be fluid and just keep going.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of the panelists. You guys have been so great tonight. I hope that all the students come away with a sense of confidence in their ability, a sense that the future holds a lot of success. You learned so much at St. Mike's, and I know that we all are so grateful for the education we got, and we took so many tools from that experience. And so we wish you all the best as you conclude your St. Mike's experience and start the exciting life as an adult. And please do know that I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say we still lean on St. Mike's sometimes. I know that I still email back and forth with the Career Center, asking their advice, asking them to review a resume with me. So remember that they're an asset to you as a student and as an alum. So be sure to take advantage of them. And so thank you again to all the panelists. Thank you again to all the attendees. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening.